We will get started momentarily. Thanks for joining the TD Synnex Public Sector Spotlight Series. Few people still signing in, so I'll give it another minute and then we will get started. Thanks for joining. Okay, I know that everybody's time is valuable, so we'll get started. This is the first of our TD Synnex Public Sector Spotlight Series, so welcome. Today, we'll be diving into smart governance, and I'll be sharing with you across our public sector verticals. In other words, what's hot, what is on the minds of end users across our verticals. Uh, w- this is I want to remind you of this. This is part of a bi-weekly series designed to equip you, our vendors, with actionable insights, guidance, and really the latest trends to help you identify opportunities and achieved success in the public sector market. So, thanks once again for joining us. I know your time is valuable. Thanks. I hope this will be some good insight as we venture into the area of smart governance. As as a former end user, first of all, I guess I should introduce myself. I know many of you on the call, but my name is Mike Gambrell. I am over our state and local government vertical alliance team. And my background is 30 years in law enforcement, retired police chief, graduated from FBI National Academy in '07. Tell everybody I enjoyed retirement for 5 months and then came over here to TD Synnex. Doesn't seem like it, but it's been 10 years since I've been here with this great company at TD Synnex. So I want to take you for a journey today through what through my former end user days, keeping current daily in reference to state and local government end users, what they're looking for, and as they're trying to achieve smart governance. I'm going to bring across and share with you some key words and provide some interpretation there so you know exactly what they're talking about from an end user standpoint when they are discussing opportunities with you. So the first thing we need to look at is their challenges. What are their challenges in state and local government across our nation? And I would say this. So is it's to increase that productivity. It's also to streamline the processes. And remember, not only are they looking internally, but they're looking externally as they serve the citizens, not only the citizens that are residents within their communities, but the citizens that are visitors, that might be outside in the county coming into the city. I'll give you an example. Is here in Greenville, we have a residential population of almost 70,000, 69,000. But and I should say that's ever growing on a daily basis as many people are moving here to Greenville. But if you expand it to the county size, what are we serving on a daily basis? We're serving on a daily basis over 300,000 people, and that's what you see with medium-sized cities like Greenville all across our nation, where they're part of a county and people within that county are coming in for essential functions on a daily basis. So it's increasing the amount of people that the government is actually serving on a daily basis. So they need to have that greater speed, accuracy, and efficiency, in providing these services. I know many of you have heard this term, digital government transformation, but really, what are we talking about here? We are talking about traditional, what we've called through the years as city services. But now, through the digital transformation, through that smart governance platform, many cities and counties, along with states, are looking at digital services. So they're actually transforming themselves from old traditional hand to hand in face meetings to that digital um, services. And think about it this way. I know we all got these. Here's your cell phone. Okay, what can we do with a cell phone? We can bring up our medical records. We can go to the doc, make appointments. We can see our medical records. We can even see the doctor's notes after, following a doctor visit. Uh, we can do the same thing with banking. We can perform banking. We can pay our bills, and that's what I'm talking about. Is being able to have digital services instead of having to go into City Hall and have hand-to-hand type transactions. When we talk about, these services, you also got to remember not all of the citizens actually have a phone or a laptop or a tablet. So you're looking at conquering the digital divide. You're actually empowering internally your staff to go out as mobile workforces. Really, that uh, common terminology we hear, computing on the edge, being able to provide those services from an internal standpoint, but then external, you've got to be able to provide these services that citizens are, looking for. And let me let me clue you in on number three. Bullet number three there is, according to some estimates, 6.3 billion people, or nearly 70% of the world's populations, will live in cities by 2050. So the cities know this. And when I'm talking about those digital services, you actually have cities competing against one another to attract citizens into their jurisdiction. So that's of all importance in being able to, from a city leader standpoint, for them to be able to provide these digital services is going to be essential. Where it comes into basic issues like smart parking. Say that I'm having a meeting with one of you in a downtown restaurant, and I have parked along the street with meter parking, but it's smart meter parking. So therefore, oh, listen, our meeting is going to take longer than anticipated. I can pull up my phone and actually uh, extend my time through that smart, before, remember what we'd have to do? Oh, let me find my quarter, my quarters in my pocket and run down to the parking meter. And, if our meeting was going long and put that in there. So that's what I'm talking about. And that's, just one example of many that I will share with you today. But, they're really demanding from a citizen standpoint, from a business perspective, all of the different, think about it from the economic development side from these cities. They are attracting new businesses, new citizens, and as these citizens move in to these cities that are competing with one another, they're looking, okay, which one is going to provide the best services for me to be a resident? And so they're really demanding this, and cities are really laying out their vision in reference to, empowering not only their mobile workforces, but, citizens as a whole. When we talk about 21st century digital government, I think it's important to remember through the U.S. government the digital government strategy. What is that? So look at each one. The first one is to enable the American people and an increasingly mobile workforce to assess a high quality digital government. Just exactly what I've been talking about. Being able to get that information, the services, anytime they want it on their device. Secondly, to ensure that as the government adjusts to this new digital world through this digital transformation, it seizes the opportunity to procure and manage devices, applications, and data through a smart, secure, and affordable way. So, I mean, I think that's key. I've addressed that, in a few of the slides leading up to this one, but that's what we're really looking at. It's a new digital world, and these digital services through digital transformation that these cities are impassioned with is what they're looking to purchase and integrate into their services. And then thirdly, to unlock the power of government data to spur innovation across the U.S. and improve the qualities of service for all American people. So, looking at it from the various cities, you have multi-jurisdictional type agreements, contracts. So being able to, from an MSA, from a metropolitan statistical area, that typically comprises three counties. That's what they're looking at, being able to build it out to their MSA. And when you start having grants, different types of funding streams coming down. And we have Lisa Rourke on our team that is over our grants management program, being able to identify grants for our resellers to be able to sell your solutions. And when you start talking about that, those are key pieces of the ingredients to be able to secure a deal, to be able to secure a sale, and be able to step back and really take pride in seeing an end user in state and local government utilize your solutions and being able to enhance their efficiencies. I wanted to put this slide in because here's another key term: legacy modernization. When we hear that, what do we think of? It's really the infrastructure. So as they have what I've been talking about thus far is these digital services, the connectivity part. That's important. But then when you start talking about legacy modernization, they really need to upgrade their infrastructure. And two key opportunities today and marching forward in 2025 is cybersecurity and cloud computing. So let's take this slide and break it down. In the middle, you will see there's a citizen. A citizen is receiving information, and we'll start upper right corner and go counterclockwise. Is This is the state capital, so they're receiving information from various departments of the state. They're receiving information from the public utilities. They're receiving information and services from City Hall. They're receiving services from the police department, from public transportation, from the hospital, and that's all our verticals. But think about it: if they're providing these digital services, then it is necessary for them to go to cloud computing, typically the public cloud. But that's a huge opportunity that CIOs from states are looking at when it breaks down to municipal and county government. Key pieces, key opportunities when you're talking about this digital transformation, when you're talking about smart governance. You've got to go, first of all, to the cloud. So you've got to upgrade that infrastructure to the cloud. And then, secondly, think about it: state, local, they are all big targets for the cyber criminals. And so it is of huge importance to be able to focus on cybersecurity and be able to counter any of those cyber criminals that are trying to get into any of these verticals, whether it's hospital records, whether it is police records, city hall, state government, any of these top verticals. There is a huge concern by the end users there to make sure that they address the cybersecurity end. I want to break down like our team and our value add. And of course, here we truly are your destination for state and local government. We was up, year over year comparison, 12%. And so we had a really good year in 2024. We see a lot of opportunity marching forward in 2025. And these, just laid out in blocks, is our different services, our, different value add, you might say, for our team. But I would like to share it with you in this aspect. Just like the city manager here in Greenville shared with one of our customers in the audience at Customers Academy last year. How do I get the customer actually posed the question, how do I get in to you, get you to listen to me and make a sale? He said this, and this is our vision on a daily basis. He says, you have, you know, my organization to some degree, you know that I have a problem. From an end user standpoint, I can tell you this. They might not know it takes two or three or four different vendors paired together for a full solution in order to solve that problem. So that's our value add, being able to pair you with different vendors for full solutions that's going to conquer that problem. So being able to come in with that reliable and dependable technology paired together so it can solve their problem. Secondly, is a contract. Being able to have a contract. 85% of government business is conducted through a contract vehicle, and so we have a very experienced contract team here to be able to come in and assist and um, provide a contract so they don't have to go to an RFP. And then third, being able to come in with a funding stream. I mentioned Lisa earlier in reference to our grant support program, but also other funding streams. Like I'll give you this example: is I put in a public safety camera system in Greenville. That's a very popular solution across America and across the world. Back in 2003 in Greenville, what did I use? I used TIF taxes, tourism taxes, and that's clearly thinking outside the box, but that's what, us as vertical leads is able to do, come in and say, hey, I've done this in the past, or somebody that I know has done this even recently, but be able to use like TIF taxes for, that was my initial, that was 90 cameras, and that was a $800,000 project back in 2003, and that's how I paid for it. And that's clearly thinking outside the box. So being able to come in, provide this, and then bring in each one of these pieces of value add for our destination here in state and local government. And then we're modernizing for a better tomorrow. So we're inspiring, we're innovating, we're integrating to be able to solve the problems of state and local government through great vendor solutions like you have, and and I mentioned this earlier, where we can all sit back and reflect and be able to see, hey, we have truly enhanced their operations and their services that they're providing through the digital world in this day and time. I also want to remind you of this. When you look at state and local government, it's really an industry of industries. So I think a lot of us get tunnel vision, you might say sometimes, with, oh, it's 50 states. There's the opportunity. Well, no, hold on. Let's break it down. Over 19,000 cities, over 3,000 counties, over 16,000 townships, 12,000 independent school districts, 2,000, higher ed institutions. And then, that's the breakdown on the left. But what do they do? Well, if you see these check marks here, that's how we go to market with our verticals. Before I get to that, I want to just share this, and this breaks it down even more in reference to the different opportunities, at the state level, the city, the county, the special districts, and don't forget that the special districts within these counties, huge opportunity there. But this is how we go to market. What they do from this breakdown I showed you 2 slides ago is this is our go to market with vertical alliance teams. So we have former end users, unlike any of our competition. We have former end users leading our verticals. So my background, as I said earlier in my introduction, is I'm over this team. Will Reed separately, because education is our largest vertical. Will Reed is director over our education program. And then Christian Ross leads our public safety vertical. Meg Lehman is our healthcare program manager. We are in the process of hiring somebody that has the public works background that would really address the public transportation and utility side. And then Lisa Rourke leads, and I mentioned her earlier. She's over our grant support program, like I said, but she's also our public administration program manager. When we start talking about, remember I said, okay, remember that legacy modernization of that terminology when CIOs are looking, okay, what's our priorities, for 2025? Well, look at what sits at number five there. Uh, then remember what I said, that's really infrastructure. So that branches out to number eight. Remember the two opportunities I said they're big. Number eight, cloud services, and number one, cybersecurity. So that all plays in the same realm. Sure, they are looking at AI. Some of the solutions are being implemented, but I would still say they're from a state and local government side. They're still at foundational, where they're trying to define their vision and try to determine some of the products and solutions that are out there to be able to build that, because surely that's going to enhance services as well. When you start talking about the needs, this really starts breaking down. This slide really starts breaking down the different opportunities by vertical. And so I just wanted to give you a visual there. And then let's go straight in to our verticals. So with each vertical, I want to show you the market, the opportunity, and then talk about what's hot in those various verticals. So here's public safety. You can see across, a lot of people don't really realize this, but there's over 18,000 police agencies, over 30,000 fire departments, over 21,000 EMA. So generally, and then even the breakdown as far as school resource officers when you're getting into campus security. But if you think about this, they're generally brought all together and called first responders. But that's what they're trying to do. They're computing from the edge in a police car, a fire truck, or an ambulance. They're coming back. There's a lot of data drivers that they're interested in, where there's a body worn camera, in car camera, a paperless record system. So thus far, when you break that down, then that gets into the connectivity with NCIC, the National Crime Information Computer. Within the patrol car, it gets into your records management systems, your computer aided dispatch. All of these type services, and then that connectivity to cameras as well. When you start talking about technology at the headquarters level, then think about this. They have public safety camera system like I described in Greenville before. So you have what I call the fixed eyes in the sky, being those surveillance cameras, the drones, the moving eyes in the sky, and then the ability for either an E911 dispatcher or an officer en route to a scene to be able to pull up a certain camera there at the scene and be able to see and determine what's going on before they actually arrive at the scene, thus enhanced officer safety. Then on the backside of it, all this big data that's being generated out of these data drivers, they've got to store it, they got to be able to secure it, and they got to be able to analyze it from an AI perspective. When we talk about all the technologies, really we cover the entire criminal justice system. So, the terminology that is used by the end user is the criminal judicial system. So we cover that entire process. So, if you started down at the bottom from conception, when the crime was committed, the arrest being made, the cameras being able to come back into E911 center with that technology, being able to have technology in the courtroom and through that prosecution and court stage, the detention, the supervision stage, um, even on release, when it gets into um, the tracking of an individual, even upon release. When we get into healthcare, we really divide it down into three. So, patient care, insurance, and pharmaceuticals, and looking at the different technologies relative to that. That breaks it down into telehealth, which is huge. Since the pandemic, all of the different applications and the solutions that they're desiring there. Patients' outcomes and satisfaction. That's how the hospital is graded. That's how they get their money. So they've got to be able to provide technology that's going to enhance that overall patient experience for them. Being able to on the backside with cybersecurity, HIPAA. I mentioned it earlier. So big in this day and time, and making sure that you're protecting those that patient information, and then getting into the back end in reference to the storage, the different networks, and the analytics that's set up there. When we talk about public administration, sure, we're talking about that infrastructure modernization on the left, moving to the right, like I talked about earlier. But then getting into the resilience and protection, getting into the connectivity, like I discussed, is that foundational. When we're looking at smart cities, what is the foundation? The foundation is connectivity, being able to have that connectivity both internally and externally, internally to staff, externally to the citizens, and the examples I gave earlier. And then getting over to the economic development. I mentioned this briefly earlier, but as these cities attract different businesses coming in and being able to build out the whole economic development, Greenville is a fine example of that. And that is something you see in medium-sized cities across America. Is they have come in and implemented smart city technology. One of them is what I mentioned earlier, the public safety camera system. But as they attract businesses, and they're looking at response times, so being able to provide that technology that keeps the officer in his or her beat instead of leaving and coming back to the police department, that's huge because that enhanced response time. But that's all through technology. And Greenville has won local, state, and national awards in reference to the economic development that's occurred here. Public-private partnerships, huge as far as a funding stream goes, and I've used that before in my end user days, and it's still being used in this day and time. Very hot topic there in reference to how they are seeking and using funds through those public-private partnerships. When we talk about that, the modern smart city, it's really not only is it public sector, but it's private sector as well. And I know in this business we call it, commercial sales, but I still, from my 30 years of end user days, I call it public sector and private sector. And a lot of times it's because of what I just mentioned before, those public private partnerships, that funding stream, that's so important. And it takes the different components of that to be able to build out a smart city and, as demonstrated in these blocks here. When we're talking about the areas of focus, and really, when I say public administration, what am I talking about? I'm talking about every technology opportunity underneath City Hall's roof. So, in other words, any technology relative to mayor and council, the city manager, each one of the department heads, all of that is reflective. And this demonstrates these three pillars here. Really demonstrates what I've been talking about. It just puts it in a graphic for you. Is that remote and hybrid governance? In other words, connectivity, the legacy modernization, and then the data and AI management. Just in a graphic so you can see it firsthand. When we talk about the smart solutions, reduced technical debt, the modernized cyber protections. All of these are important in this day and time for the end user. When you talk about public works, sure, EV charging, camera sensor technologies, the connectivity, the microgrids, the cloud solutions, all these are important in this day and time when we start talking about public roads, our roadways, our parks, all of those different entities that fall generally underneath public works at the state level, our public works department at the local level. Then with public transportation, once again, what I talk about with our first responders in those vehicles, that's what you're talking about here. A lot of our resellers that I preach to is I say, listen, don't forget when we're talking about workers in the field, the connected crew. A lot of us will get tunnel vision in reference to those first responders, but think about all the other vehicles that the city, the county, and the state owns. Those are opportunities too to be able to provide computing on the edge technology for that. The intelligent transportation system, and that gets into the command centers. A lot of us with command centers, we look at that opportunity and say, okay, hey, that's a real time crime center, emergency operations center. Well, think about it outside of that. It is for a hospital security, internal, external cameras, access control, all that coming back in. It is a smart transportation center where you have sensors in the roadways, cameras, being able to come back in and provide intelligence for safe roadways to enhance our services there. So, quite a number of opportunities here. When we talk about public utilities, I talked about EV charging is pictured here. Smart walkways that are lit up, sensor driven there within the walkway stripes, the physical and electronic data and safety. All of these are key important parts in this day and time when we're talking about public utilities. Feel free to contact us at any point. I want to remind you this is a continuing series. It's a bi-weekly series. So I wanted to give you what you might say an overview of what's important in overall state and local government and smart governance and the key opportunities for you as vendors with your solutions, how to sell some of the key terms that's being used today. But you're going to see in some of the in our continuing bi-weekly series, you're going to hear from Will Reed on education. You'll hear from Christian Ross on public safety. You'll hear from Meg Lehman on our healthcare, and you'll hear from Lisa Rourke on public administration. So we truly appreciate you joining us today. If you had any questions, please put them in the chat, or you can feel free to email me. There's my email address there at the top. Pretty easy to remember for our overall TD Synnex. It's first name, last name with a dot in between, Mike.Gambrell at tdsynex.com. So please join us for this continuing series. I hope it's been a webinar today that has give you key insight on what's hot in smart governance vision for state and local governments. And we look forward to seeing you for our continuing biweekly series on some great topics that's going to help you enhance your sales, let you know how you can work with us through our value add as we work because we're subject matter experts for you as well as our resellers. And we look forward to helping you drive that sales meter and making more money year over year. So thank you for joining us today. And we'll be back in touch in reference to a follow up from this webinar on any information. And like I said, look forward to seeing you in our continuing series. Thank you.